Hello, this is Peter Adkison. I'm here with Steve Conard. We co-direct the Chaldea series, and we are here to chat it up about this chapter while we play it in the background. We will be talking over the audio, so if you haven't watched Chapter 4 yet, we recommend you first watch the version without the commentary so you can enjoy it without our yammering. All right, here we are to talk about Chapter 4, Marco. So Marco is, well, to tell this story, we've got to set this up a little bit and go back to classic Chaldea, the way we played it, going clear back to the 80s. And one of the things I did as one of these overly energetic, overly ambitious GMs was at some point I started creating a campaign newsletter. This was like, I was doing it, back in those days, printing, typing up articles on a typewriter and then, cutting and pasting into what looked like a newspaper sort of organization. And I wasn't a very good writer or editor, especially in those days. And I had a friend who was one of the co-founders of Wizards of the Coast with Steve and I and others named Kim McLaughlin. And he really enjoyed this idea of a campaign newsletter. And he started helping me write articles. And specifically, he started writing editorials. And so I would write an article about, what was happening, like some war, some assassination, what have you. And then Ken would write an editorial for each issue where he'd kind of go through and touch on all the topics in the issue and add a lot of snarkiness and commentary, some value judgments, especially. It was a fun way to kind of rib the player characters a little bit because, of course, some of the articles would include the exploits of various player characters in Chaldea. And he gave the editor of the Conard Informant, he created this as a character, not like the way you rolled up with dice. He just envisioned this character and gave him the name of Marco Hemmelgrar. And so when we decided to start doing the Chaldea series as we're doing it now, of course, Steve, I think you were pretty much insistent that we had to continue forward with this idea, right?
Yeah. In fact, one of the earliest times I remember getting introduced to Chaldea was this idea, the Conard Informant newspaper would come out. And I never even thought of like an actual newspaper. I mean, I could see role playing out a newspaper setting in a game setting or something, but to actually be handed a newspaper. I remember we'd be in class. We were all taking computer science comp sci together, and we're all sort of in the same math and computer science. And you'd come around and you'd be handing out all the DKI issues. And I remember it was so awesome. It was one thing to sit there and play the games on the weekend or whatever. But then a couple weeks later, you would get to read about that particular adventure. And inevitably, we would fire and forget. We went and, took out some, bunch of work somewhere. And then we'd find out later on that there was some horrible repercussions of that where the orcs rose up afterwards and just laid waste to a bunch of farms in retribution, and we realized, there's more to just adventuring than just going out and getting loot and coming back and getting XP. Anyway. So
yeah, well, and part of the fun was sometimes the news never gets it right. Sometimes the news gets it a little bit wrong. One of the things I would have fun doing is to just kind of twist the truth a little bit as to what really happened, but by the time what happened gets told and gets reported on, sometimes the story doesn't come out quite right. And I remember the players wait a minute, I'm the one that killed the dragon, not so-and-so, or whatever it was, that was fun as well.
Well, I remember one time, one player was it was so slanderous that they actually went and kidnapped Marco, wanted him to retract what he wrote. I remember.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that. Maybe that's a plot device that we put in a future Chaldea chapter in this series. Yeah, that's a fun idea. Yeah.
Well, they didn't even went further where we started getting the newspaper articles, and then there was the advertisements in there. I remember Cheldrick, Moneypenny was putting up M&M Communications, and making money off of. Oh my God! It just went further. This is one of the things I loved so much about Chaldea was it wasn't just getting together on the weekends and hacking and slashing. It was just adding a lot of other levels to everything that was going on.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that, and you can see, I'm showing here in the video, you can see sort of the evolution of the Cordova informant. What I'm flipping through here are samples from the earliest editions. These are from back in the 80s. Nothing you might read if you zoom in applies to the story as of now. These were tales of the exploits back in the day, and you can see how we started to take it more and more seriously. At first, we were just typing out pages, and eventually we added a masthead and graphic designs, and tried to up our game a little bit.
Yeah, well, Ken was like a typesetter guru. He even brought his typesetting capabilities to Wizards of the Coast in the future. So yeah, he started making it really pro. And then everything that we do, as soon as somebody, inevitably was you, who had launched some idea, the rest of us would just glam on and just, I don't know, go down. We always like to say, go down the rabbit hole. We certainly did that. Sort of parallel to this, I knew that, you were on a completely different level when you started selling stocks in Chaldea.
Yeah, not really selling stocks in the real world, but like within the Chaldea universe, I had a stock market. Within
you fully wrote it out you actually had it running, like you wrote an app, right? I did the whole thing. Yeah, I remember we would come back and we go into venture. We were like, oh, we got a bunch of gold or whatever. And I'm going to invest my gold into the stock market. And we were waiting on, every quarter for like a return on investment and whether it was like some mercenary. I remember someone invested a bunch of money into a mercenary guild and then went and started a war to see whether or not it would.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. There was some shenanigans for sure. Yes. You will not find a stock market in the Chaldea series that we're publishing now as a video series here on YouTube. This was I felt that for this the stock market idea was a little too modern for but yes, in the original Chaldea as we played it back in the day. We had a stock market with a regular stock market report.
Well, if you show, maybe one of the samples you'll show here, you actually showed stock market returns and stuff in the KI.
Yes, and there it is. There it is, an example of a stock market report from an old issue of the Cordova Informant.
By the way, some of the businesses that are in that stock market report, if you look closely in our Oxtop map, you could actually see those businesses are still running. We certainly use some of the some of the proper nouns, some of the business ideas. We just didn't put them on a stock market, but yes. But one of the things was that somewhere, you're like, oh, other people should write. And one of the things you did was, so we created a pen names. And so, my name being Steve Conard, my initials are SC, Shelby Chartrand was my pen name. And so if you go read on our website now, there's KR articles there, and it's written by the KR news article. It was written by Shelby Chartrand. Well, that's actually my pen name.
That's right.
And other characters had theirs as well.
So when we sat down about 6-7 years ago now to start planning out how we would tell a story set in Chaldea, drawing from elements of our game experience and from the campaign that we played, we quickly realized that we wanted to have Marco Hamilgrar be the storyteller. That the story of Chaldea that we are sharing is told by Marco in the future, looking back, sort of writing his memoirs, if you will, very similar to Bilbo Baggins writing There and Back Again. And so that's and also he narrates the story, and also. But in addition to that, he also is a protagonist in the story. He has a role in the story that he is writing, just like Bilbo did. And so one of our lead characters, obviously, in this chapter is Marco Hamilgrar, looking back, he's looking back, writing about his own life in addition to the lives of Yo and Sarva and Ricefitz and so on.
Well, I think we covered this before when we talked about Eric Ray Anderson as our narrator. But the first time he came in to do the voice of Marco, well, his voice was just so clean, and oh man, it was amazing. And Plus he had the look. He came in, he was like wild haired. I don't even know. It's like, the thing when people do voice work, they don't get dolled up in makeup, whatever. They just come walking in their pajamas, and they're just like, some of them, you're like, did you even sleep last night? Whatever, it doesn't matter as long as they deliver in the booth. So he comes in and he's all just crazy. And I remember he locked something in his car. It was just like, he just sort of, just like Marco would have lost his mind somewhere. Eric came in doing and he didn't realize he was doing an audition.
Well, he came in to do voiceover in the voice of Marco in Chapter 3 in War Room, in the first version of War Room that we did way back when. And at that point in time, we didn't really have a clear vision of what Marco would be in Chaldea. Hadn't really decided he would be a lead character. But I think that thought was starting to churn in our minds, and which kind of led to and we auditioned him for the voiceover work because we liked the voice, so we hired him for his voice, and he came in. But I think we were already thinking like, well, we're gonna probably want to get our likeness rights for this character. And I remember Steve, you and I, when first time we saw Eric Ray Anderson, we were both thinking the same thing. Oh my God, he's got the look too. I mean, he just got cast for more than just this little voiceover work. Oh, and if you could believe what he's like, he just loves playing Marco. He's like, okay, I'm ready. I think when we said we should do a sitcom, I was like, well, when are we doing it? Yeah, he's a joy to work with. He's a lot of fun on set or in the sound booth, and he's got a really good command of the English language. One of the great things about working with Eric Ray Anderson is that he often gives like a little bit of final polish on the script. He'll add a little bit of like, well, a British thing that might go in here would be really good or something, and he usually knows the punctuation better. Don't need an accent coach for him when he's in there. So when he's here, where he's walking across the great room, and he looks really small in this human-sized living room, and if you look in the background there's a big mural on the wall, and you see a smaller mural on the easel. Marco has this painting of his home in Perrin, and he's stuck in this big industrious human civilization here in Ogstad. So he's repainting the painting is making it a big mural on the wall. So if you look back there, that's actually his hometown. And if you also take a look, there's a big toadstool there. And we've said earlier that Marco loves mushrooms. So that's a living mushroom there in the room. It's huge. Yeah, I think in the art direction, it's just like, if in doubt, add a mushroom, right? I mean, he does mushrooms. Yeah, he does mushrooms. So now, back when we were writing Conard Inform articles in the 80s, and Ken decided that his editorial voice was Marco Hamagrar, I decided to create the publisher voice of Edward Stewart. Now, for our series, we kept that character, but renamed him to Otvard Stigvard because it's set in Hesse, and we wanted a more Germanic, appropriate name. So I just got to jump in and tell one really fun story about the audition process for Otvard Stigvard, played by David Faubert. So when we do an audition, we create what are called sides. A side is like a 2 or 3 page excerpt from the script, and ideally, of course, 2 or 3 pages that really feature the character that we're auditioning for. So we, of course, did this for Otvard. And what happens is we send these to the agents. The agents send them out to various actors that fit the demographic we're looking for. And then the actors post auditions. Even before the pandemic, they would do this generally from home. Post auditions on a site that our casting director at that time would host, and we could watch them. And Steve and I would both have access to these auditions. Well, when they do these auditions, when an actor does this, they're acting a piece of the script, and it usually is a dialogue between them and another character, maybe 2 or 3 characters, but best if just 2 characters. And so for that to work, what they'll do is they'll get a friend or a loved one, a roommate, to say the lines of the other character that they can react to in their audition. So we got the audition for Oddvar, and we're looking through it. We got, I don't know, 20 or 30 of them, who knows how many. And so I gave Steve a call. I said, okay, have you listened to the Oddvar auditions? And Steve said, yeah. And I think I like this guy, David Faubert. What do you think? What did you say, Steve?
No, I did. I said, well, I really liked him, but what was very interesting was I said, did you notice the person reading the other lines? And you're like, huh? It's like, I swear that was Eric Ray Anderson, our Marco actor, who was reading the other lines.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like, so, and he was right. So I immediately, of course, re-listened to the David Faubert audition, and in the background, really faintly, because David, of course, is one at the microphone, you can hear Eric Ray Anderson reading the lines of Marco Hamilcar opposite Oddvar.
Small world. All the actors in Seattle know each other. It was funny because he was reading Marco's lines, which eventually he played Marco.
Right. And he's already cast for Marco, but he hadn't been doing Marco that much. And listening to talking about this, years later with Eric, Eric says, yeah, I was reading the lines for this script and it sounded really familiar, but I couldn't place it. Who's Marco Hamilcar? This sounds so. It was funny that Eric was reading his own character, but didn't quite realize it was his own character. Anyway, yeah, funny story.
Fire up the printers. Let's get the KI cranking. Damn, this is going to be a scorcher. Wait.
Of course, when we did this, the voice of Marco was Ken. I mean, Ken just imbued life into this character. So I went to him and had him write an overview of his character, his background, all this information. I mean, I kind of knew some of it, but I mean, he really went into detail. I mean, he handed me stuff like he knew the Cordovan informant, like which corner in Old Ogstad it was at. The street address and all this sort of stuff. And of course, I love detail and took all that in. And at one point you were you were thinking, well, maybe we'll actually film, some Marco bits. And we did, right? I think it's in season 2. We actually go in, and you can talk about that if you want. But as part of that, we ended up designing the layout of the Cordovan informant offices. I mean, architectural blueprint drawings. I don't know. I couldn't stop. Anyway, so we did that, and then you were talking about how we needed to not use the quill to mass produce that in Chaldea, the gnome tech, steam tech. They're from the Celestial Age. There's not very many of gnomes in Chaldea, but they create all this steam tech stuff. People like steampunk, and so then we sat down and ended up designing a steampunk printing press, which if you look on the front page of the cover art, you'll see it in the background there.
Yeah, and the history of the press within Chaldea is that it was designed by the gnomes for Emperor Cordava to handle the burgeoning volume of paperwork that was required to run the empire. And somehow Otvard Stigvard, in collaboration with Helvig von Gustavus, got their hands on one and started a print company. And at first it was called, we want the Cordovan informant. We wanted to, as we were developing the backstory of this, we wanted to have something a little bit more seedy. In fact, I think this was in Ken's original notes, was that Marco Hamilcar, he came to the Cordovan informant to sort of instill some journalistic virtues, some standards to it, and in the process renamed it to the Cordovan informant. And before that, it was like a gossip tabloid called the
Ogstad Star.
Yes.
Dealing in dirt and tabloid sensational dreck
Well, when we realized that we were going to tell a story about Marco, like that what Marco would be not just a narrator, but a character in our story, his location, his locale, if you will, obviously is the offices of the Carnarvon informant. And so then we started to realize, well, we have to develop a whole staff. And again, Ken was one step ahead of us. Ken had developed a whole bunch of the different personalities in the office. But I think we added Sprex. We wanted to have a newspaper writer, a reporter who was a carryover from the tabloid days, because we knew this would be a great foil for Marco, somebody with absolutely no journalistic ethics whatsoever, who would just continuously make fun of Marco. But because he's like the first hire back when Otvard started the business, he's sort of protected. Otvard has a soft spot for Sprex and won't fire him.
I remember when we got together for a table read, and we got those three comedians all together in the room at the same time.
Oh yeah, you got to say that I mean, we love the cast. I would say this about every single cast. I'm always talking about what a great cast we have, but the Marco cast in particular is just stunningly good. You know, with Eric Ray Anderson as Marco and David Faubert as Otvard and Michael Smith as Sprex. And then in a future chapter, we'll see Sarah Moore as Poppy. And the four of them it's like, we laugh at the Marco story. It's kind of sometimes our Chaldea soap operas. It's like our sitcom chapters, while everybody else is worried about huge world events, you know, wars with the orcs and assassinations and all these horrible things. They're arguing, getting just as dramatic and just as upset, but it's just office politics.
Are you sure Sigmund can meet the deadline?
Yeah, I remember we were giggling. We were recording these guys going at it in this table read, and afterwards we were like, "Well, this whole Chaldea thing doesn't work out. You know, if we get tired of it, we could just do the sitcom, this just inside the offices of the KI. It was that good." The other thing, we said, we're going to have Marco and we're going to develop the story, and my great, and of course he's a halfling, and then I started thinking about, we're gonna build this world. Well, you know, in Lord of the Rings, Bilbo, Frodo, those guys all live in the Shire, where it's all like halfling kingdom, if you will. Well, now we've got Marco, who's from Perrin. He's from a completely different kingdom, and he comes to Ogstad. Well, Ogstad is a human kingdom. That means everything around him is human size. Even when we came down to building his house, it's like, well, nobody built a halfling-sized house for him. He moved into a human-sized house. So the door always had to be oversized and just everything. And we actually ended up designing, again, every square inch of his house. That was a lot of fun. He even has this, what we call the donut bar, which is a little bar he likes to drink at. And he has this sign. It's like a signpost. It's pointing to different places. And on that signpost, it says, it's 32 paces to the privy and 42 paces to the kitchen and 52 paces to the wine cellar. Because Marco is detailed and wants to know everybody, when I need to go find the privy, how many hobbit paces is it? It's really funny. I remember I was talking to you about this. I go, so Marco's the boss. He's running the entire KI, but everybody's human. And so he had his desk in his office and all the humans are just towering over him, looking down. I said, no, he'd build like this huge dais. So the humans would have to look up at him. So if you take a look in the film, that's why he's up on this dais and he's constantly going up and down it and up and down it. So anyway, that was just some of the fun stuff that we did designing his world. Yes, that was a lot of fun. As we said earlier, we actually filmed a live action film in here, which we'll save the commentary for that when that film comes out. But the nice thing was that we had already filmed that entire live action and had beautiful photographs of, from every angle and whatnot. So when you're showing the office here, it was, the artist really liked it because he's like, here it is in the surround. And so what you're seeing there is exactly the way the set looked, which it's kind of nice actually, when you know exactly where everything's at. Yes, exactly. It's
Yeah, well, it's a great set. As a matter of fact, today, as I'm recording my portion of this video of behind the scenes or director's commentary for this chapter, I'm sitting in the set. I know that doesn't look like the set of a film, but it is.
Yeah, and you know what? When you're sitting in that set, you kind of look like you might be a hobbit because it's truly huge.
Here, I'll show you how it's not the set, right? There's the set. Woohoo! Okay, now I got to bring back the poster board.
More to the left.
How's that?
There you go.
Woohoo!
The magic of Hollywood.
I'm not really out by a mountain.
You're not near Tavia?
No, I'm not at like some ski resort with this mountain behind me. No, it's just a pretty picture on a poster board. A pretty picture of a mountain in Chaldea.
The governor's getting ready to share the news publicly.
Heike, tell Sigmund to fire up the presses.
We should give a nice little shout out here to Michelle Takahashi from our writing team. Michelle took the lead on the Marco scripts. And those are the Marco story. It's been kind of her baby and a little bit of my baby too. I think this is probably the script that you've had the softest hand on. Is that right, Steve?
You know, we do this thing at the very end in executive. We do an executive edit just to make sure that we get the Chaldea flavor stuff in there. But you're right. This is all. I mean, I like that. You always understate how much you're involved in the scripts. Oh, I don't do much. Yeah, you do. Like in this one, you write a lot of first drafts and whatnot. But yeah, she delivered this whole thing through. She understood the voice. The reason why it's so funny is she understood these characters really, really well and brought them to life.
Street lamps, windows, and doors. The previous night's news had struck the heart of Ogstad, quickly spreading like wildfire.
This chapter was illustrated by Frog Children and specifically Bob Q, which did just a masterful job, especially the lighting. I was particularly happy with his lighting effects. The whole thing was wonderful working with them, and you will see Bob Q again. He's eager to keep going.
A few days later, the KI still buzzed with activity, but a somber pall hovered over everyone. Nevertheless, we stoically buckled down to churn out the next edition.
Marco!
Good God! Knock first! Nearly jumped out of my skin. You missed your calling as a court jester.
Big news?
Yeah, Oddvar doesn't care how horrible what the story's about. Is just like if he could get the readership up, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of my personality in Ottavard compared to Ken's personality in Marco. I shouldn't say that, but I think at least Ken might have saw it that way at that point in time. Hey, business is great. What's the problem?
This isn't about your climb up the social ladder. We're toying with dark political world unrest. It's dangerous business.
It's our business. All of it. Good, bad, ugly. It's all news.
Rex made a deal with the devil, or something worse, to get the Cordova intel.
You're being overly dramatic.
Does even a sliver of guilt not enter your mind? For what we knew, when we knew it.
Knew what?
Governor Gustavus.
Governor Gustavus appears in almost every episode of this season, doesn't he?
He does not show up in the Zane chapter, surprisingly.
Is that the only one?
He's in a lot. Yeah, he is. He's always there.
Or he's not in the first Yo chapter either.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
But he's definitely the one who has the most screen time, for sure. It was never planned that way, but he's a busy man.
Well, and we love working with Ross Douglas.
He's my hero.
I hate birthdays. My wife makes goddamn sure of that.
Add Cordova's murder into the mix, and you must really despise it now.
I love that line so much.
I know it's great. Yeah, but Marco sometimes just says something like he's got a little social awkwardness. Maybe it's because he's a halfling. Maybe it's a racial thing. Humans, halflings don't always see things the same way. I don't know. It's just funny to occasionally write in a little bit of offline.
Formalities. Call me Mynheer.
Of course.
Okay, that was a Peter line right there.
After all,
I think you just role played that out one day.
Yeah, I think I don't know where it came from, but yeah, I'll take credit for that. Yeah, don't call me governor. Just mine hair. We're all friends here.
That's exactly what you did, and we just put it in.
Mine hair.
You can always trust Marco. Lips firmly sealed.
I must be off. Much to do.
It's going to be a common thread with the Marco stories, is getting information and reporting whether he should or not, or earlier. People are like letting information out. I mean, in the Middle Ages, like kingdoms and whatnot, they things were secret. They weren't used to like a newspaper just letting out all the secrets for anybody to read.
Yes. That's right. It'll be interesting to watch Marco thread this needle of how much can he say, how much should he say, and what sorts of repercussions there might be from saying it or printing it. All right, that is our coverage, our director's commentary for Chapter 4, and I hope you liked it. We had a lot of fun making it. I think you can tell from all of our laughter and giggles that this is... well, it's a funny episode. We had a lot of fun making it, and we hope you like it. Hey, if you would like to read some Cardavan Informant news articles, we publish them regularly on our website, www.worldofchaldea.com.
The Emperor! He's dead!
Found dead in the throne room.
Better that than the toilet room, but who cares? He's dead. The universe is obviously telling us one thing. Pub crawl!
We're so wasted.